Another year, another season of Death Battle, and I don't know, but I really don't think this season was one of their best. To give my quick thoughts, I'm not a big fan of the animated segments with the hosts. I know that's rich given what I do with my hosts, but the humour is not as often based on witty comments, fun mythology gags, argumentation between them and stuff like that anymore. Now it's mostly slapstick or boomstick showing off some weakness of a character and going uh-oh, or referencing one of their powers. Sometimes it can be funny, but more often than not I preferred when it was more about the dialogue between them. You know? I don't know why I stuttered so much there. Overall, the season was alright, definitely better than its corresponding DBX season, and today I'm going to talk about each episode and my thoughts on them. Aquaman vs. Namor is easily one of the most disappointing episodes of the season for me. Not because I think it's bad or anything, I still think it's a decent episode, but personally I don't think it lived up to its fullest potential. I love the ocean and the creatures that inhabit it, and I know that it's funny to say that I love the ocean given that I don't do any sort of work involving the ocean, and the ocean is mostly just a big pool of nothing, but I love the creatures that live there. So I have quite a bias to like Aquaman and Namor, although I do occasionally find the Aquaman is useless jokes kind of funny. Robot Chicken usually makes them funny, but for a battle between them, something feels absent in this fight. I can't quite explain it, but I'm not terribly into how it went down. And yeah, not including their corresponding Leviathan monsters is very disappointing. I don't think the episode was bad, but it wasn't really anything special. Mega Man Battle Royale remains a highlight of this season. While I don't give a rat's ass about most of these Mega Men, my favourite Mega Man is Zero, and my second favourites are Base or Proto Man, I guess. I suppose my favourite blue Mega Man is X. This episode was good enough to satisfy me. But there are some holes in it. First off, where is Vent/Ale from Mega Man ZX? Yeah, their inclusion wouldn't have changed the outcome, but what is important? The only characters with comparable stats in this matchup are X and Geostella. EXE stomps so hard, and Volnut gets stomped so hard, it's not really much of a competition. Secondly, I don't know how I feel about the Mega Men not changing colors to match their weapon. I understand why it wasn't done, because it'd be a real pain in the ass, but at the same time it would have made the characters easier to distinguish and a bit easier to follow. There are some moments that could have been improved with this battle, but honestly I think it's pretty damn good and entertaining, and I'm just glad it was done at all. Black Widow vs. Widowmaker is one of the most bland, uninteresting matchups of this season. Not that a matchup of more human level characters is bland or anything, but the battle doesn't really have any energy to it. From the start, the very boring music doesn't fit what's supposed to be a tense chase between Natasha trying to destroy Widowmaker's escape route and Widowmaker trying to get the fuck out of the battle. It does fit the start, and it fits the characters, but it doesn't fit the scene. And it's hard to take a Ferris wheel going down properly when it's from such normal human level characters that don't even react to it. I firmly believe this episode would be much better with music that picks up a bit more. And that ending fight, oh god, it's so hard to tell Torian animated this because it looks bad. Aside from this shot, which is awesome, the characters move so slowly and with so little impact that almost all the attacks look like they're either not hitting or barely hitting. And whatever happened to Widowmaker's grapple here should never have happened. I do like the ending though, it's a very creative kill, especially for such normal characters, but I don't know why Natasha says Das Vidanya when that means till we next meet, because, I don't know, maybe she throws herself off the building or something to meet Widowmaker next, I don't know. This battle could have been really good. I mean, Snake vs. Fisher was really good, and those characters are a lot more humanoid than some of the other ones they've used, at least in terms of their stats, but instead this is a bland, very boring battle that I could live without. Captain Marvel vs. Shazam was surprisingly entertaining, partially because I like Shazam and didn't care for Captain Marvel, so the matchup brought me some joy at the end. And whether intended or not, Shazam throughout this battle looks like he's giving so little effort, so when he actually starts trying and lays a brutal smackdown on Captain Marvel, it's very satisfying. It kind of highlights how big a mismatch this is when Carol throughout is trying hard to take down Shazam, while he's treating this as if it's a joke. And when he actually tries, he matches her blow for blow, outspeeds her, and then pretty much kills her with a single full-strength punch. Not to say this episode is perfect, it's extremely predictable, one of the biggest mismatches of the entire season. Especially given Death Battle previously acknowledged Superman is stronger than Goku and 18 is stronger than Captain Marvel, so based on their own logic they'd have to say that 18 is stronger than Goku or Shazam isn't comparable to Superman to have Carol win. Both of those statements are very incorrect. Regardless, I actually quite enjoy this fight, and I think people give it a bad rap either because it's another Marvel vs. DC fight so soon after the last one, or the fact that it's the third Marvel fight in 4 episodes, or maybe just because they don't like Captain Marvel in general, all of which I can understand. Wario vs. DDD I don't really have much of an opinion on. I don't really think this episode really went far enough. I like how it subverts normal battles by having them start in their super forms, then go to their base forms, and also show in flashback why they go to a fight to the death, while also playing true to their characteristics of absolutely moronic morons. But I almost don't think the fight is cartoony enough. The death is great at least, Not to say this episode is bad, but it's just not as far as I'd like given the characters in question. Green Lantern vs. Ben 10. Oh boy. This battle I have no opinion on. Flat 5 out of 10, because I don't really care. I like Green Lantern, and I like some of Ben's aliens, like Alien X and Ghost Freak, but I really think that while there might be arguments for Green Lantern winning, the issue so many people have with the episode is the way Death Battle argued was fucking trash. They spouted blatant falsehoods instead of addressing real arguments, like how powerful the Will Whale thing is. If they had brought up, this whale is more powerful than Alien X, Green Lantern beat it, therefore he wins, then I think people would have been a lot more okay than just saying Alien X can't counteract matter manipulation and time control, which is kind of like saying Green Lantern can't counteract light constructs or super strength. It's dumb. However, I personally don't think it's the most inaccurate or worst argued death battle. In my opinion, Guts vs. Nightmare is by far one of the worst death battles in that regard, and I'm saying that as someone who loves Guts. And I think there are battles like Cammy vs. Sonya or Luigi vs. Tails that are significantly more warranting of such a scathing response. Like, at least I get Goku vs. Superman. The like and dislikes would have been very close regardless of who won. It's an icon of Weebtown versus an icon of Geeksville. But of all battles, this was actually kind of a surprise to see so disliked. Weiss vs. Mitsu is an episode I've talked about more times than I'd like to acknowledge. The episode was fine and that's it. The animation looked bad at a standstill but was really good in motion. Significantly better than anything from Ruby since Volume 4, and I'd say it might even look better than Crow vs. Tyrion. But the ending sucks and I've explained why enough in the past. Johnny Cage vs. Captain Falcon has no right being as fun as it is. Then again, this is the only character with personality in Mortal Kombat versus the most hype motherfucker in Smash, so I guess I should have expected this. The battle was really fun and entertaining, and to an extent I feel like it could have gone further, but unlike Wario vs. DDD, I think this is sufficiently awesome. I mean, they get into a fight on an F-Zero circuit and get launched by boost pads and get into a brawl regardless, and the Falcon Punch finish will never not be awesome. Very entertaining episode, highlight of the season. Aang vs. Edward was surprisingly average. Now once again, this battle was a complete stomp with no tension, but as a fan of Atla, I was interested in seeing how they'd have Aang kill Edward but remain in character, and they didn't. Aang straight up murders Edward, as in like, you left me no choice. But when Aang thought he didn't have a choice about killing Ozai, he tried his hardest to find a way around it. To be honest, that's my real problem with the fight. Otherwise, I found it quite entertaining. The use of Ed's alchemy was honestly fairly creative. It's just the way it ends. You know, like how Batman just murders Captain America and doesn't react to it, or how Guts vs. Nightmare leave Guts in the Berserker armor with nobody around to help him. Ghost Rider vs. Lobo is a bigger example of not going far enough than Wario vs. DDD is. Look, I get that Ghost Rider doesn't often get into over-the-top fights despite his insane level of power, but Lobo fucking does. There's very little of the brawling I'd expect from these two. I expect Lobo to get in a big ol' fist fight and at least overwhelm Ghost Rider, forcing Zerathos out instead of what happens. Which is something I can't imagine bringing Zerathos out. Between when Ghost Rider's bike hits Lobo and when Zerathos comes out, I feel like there could have been a lot more actual fighting, like Ghost Rider actually putting up a fight against the Lobo army. And Zerathos could have had some actual grandiose nature to his appearance, you know, make him look cool instead of just, hi, Zerathos is here. The ending was good though. I liked it. But, you know, it's an alright episode. Dragon Zord vs. Kiryu is one of my favourite battles in the series, but it isn't perfect. For one thing, I hate the way they pronounce Kiryu. It's either Kiryu or Kiryu. Kiryu is not how it's pronounced. And there were people telling me I was petty for complaining. Imagine if they pronounced characters like this: Goku, Superman, Lobo, Strider Hiru, Haye, Ru. Now you fucking tell me I'm being petty when I don't like them mispronouncing the name of one of my favorite kaiju of all time for the entire video. I fucking dare you. Am I also petty for not liking it when people call me Nemesis Blood Scythe or Nemesis Blood Rice? Read the damn name, people! Anyway, the other big problem with this fight is that it starts in media res. However, unlike most in media res fights Death Battle has, and other versus series have done, there's no implication that the battle just started. There's no indication the characters are still in top shape and that they just started fighting long ago. I mean, how many Power Rangers fans are disappointed that Tommy Oliver didn't use his dagger to call the Dragon Zord into the fight? But with that out of the way, the fight itself, it's pretty fucking great, isn't it? Very entertaining, very fun, very good, but the way they killed Akane makes me want to fucking die. Especially given they talk about her like she's some standard boring character in the analysis, when she's by far one of the most interesting protagonists of any Godzilla film. Akane deserved better, and now Kiryu is left unmanned on a rampage by the original Godzilla's soul. Uh-oh. Also, I find it really funny they called this the most unique Mechagodzilla when Mechagodzilla City exists. Which is more unique? The third Mechagodzilla that's just a giant robot Godzilla made of metal, and the second to be made by humans and armed with 1,000,000 guns, or the only Mechagodzilla that is an entire nano-metal city and never fights Godzilla in its Robo-Gogeta form. Sasuke vs Hiei, a battle I didn't care for, but it had a pretty kick-ass animation, not gonna lie. I do have a lot of issues with the conclusion though. They didn't argue Hiei's victory terribly well. They just said, he's resistant to fire and lightning, so 100% of Sasuke's elemental attacks are useless, instead of saying, Hiei has survived fire and lightning attacks that are superior to Sasuke's. It's important to distinguish between them because the implication of the first claim is that Hiei is immune to all fire and lightning attacks, even though I'm fairly certain a supernova from the Human Torch would easily obliterate Hiei. My biggest issue though is them saying that Sasuke and Hiei are very closely matched, but then saying Hiei is 5,000 times stronger than Sasuke. Like, do you not know what a close match is? Ganondorf vs Dracula is a fight that surprisingly a lot of people really enjoyed, while I found the animation very stilted, janky, and not that great. And I want to note I'm a big fan of Devil Artemis. However, aside from the Ganondorf vs Medusa head parts, the fight looked a lot funnier than I think was intended. The bitch slap was super janky, but that was probably meant to be funny, so I guess I get a part. I guess I can give it a pass. The big boy punch is super weird, and also Dracula freezes in place when hit, so it looked like it had very little impact. Ganondorf being thwacked by Medusa heads looks comedic, and while I know everyone loves the kaiju fight, I'm disappointed about how tame it is. The only portions I think were cool in it were Ganondorf's transformation into Ganon, which is awesome, and the part where they try and match their raw strength and Ganon just tosses Dracula aside. Aside from that, I was disappointed. Also, Dracula only uses one transformation, which is somewhat disappointing, but also I guess I could have expected that. But it's not really a deal breaker, honestly. The death, though? The death is pretty cool. Then again, I don't really think Dracula actually killed Ganondorf here. I mean, it's not unreasonable to say Dracula could break Demise's curse, but he doesn't do it, so yeah. Not a bad episode, but a bit overhyped to me. Mob vs Tatsumaki, a battle with all the right components and all the right moments, but not enough between them. If you've watched my vids, you probably know my biggest issue with the fight. Mob's 100% form is not only not elaborated on in the matter of what emotion he's feeling, but also Mob just gets to that point very quickly. That and his unknown percentage is not very well done in the matter of it's given no agency. The transformation isn't really that cool looking in this animation, but there's also no indication Mob was knocked out. Given he protects himself from this attack, it's strange that somehow this knocked him out anyway and he went unknown percentage with no indication. He either shouldn't have protected himself and be caught off guard when they smash together, or the rocks should have split open and he should have fallen down. Yeah, I know, once again, you guys were all talking about how petty I was for wanting a character that I like to be portrayed accurately. Unknown percentage is not just a generic transformation that can be activated whenever, it activates a specific circumstance. And I don't like how it was portrayed. I'm not nitpicking or petty, I dislike when a character is portrayed differently to how they are in their home series, despite this supposed to have been a scenario where they just put that character in a new situation. Deadpool vs the Mask, who is not the big head killer, no siree, is also just okay. It's not like it's a great episode because there's almost no actual fighting and most of the fight is dedicated to a live action skit and it's very short. And yeah, I get it, it's a comedy fight and I can respect that. It goes really far with the jokes and that's okay. I just wish there was some more fighting, or maybe even less fighting, you know, because it's a spite match and all. Having it end with almost no competition from Deadpool would have been very fitting. I don't know, the episode's okay, but it isn't great. The best part to me is how they did Deadpool's feats in his section. That was actually kind of funny. And now, All Might vs Might Guy. Let's get it out of the way, the analysis was good. And I say that mostly because of how they treat the story. Most death battle analyses end on a note about not to fuck with these characters, or something about the end of their journey, or just a joke. But with these characters, they chose to end each analysis section with a solemn moment about their successes, which is so fitting. These characters' roles primarily revolve around their successes, at least out of universe, like narratively. So it's only fitting that at the end of the discussion about how powerful they are, that they go from talking about their strength to about what their characters value most, and what's most important about them as individuals, the people they train to succeed from where they left off. That was beautiful to me. I love that they did that. And the battle, it was pretty good. But there were some noticeable issues. And to me, the most glaring was, wait a minute, is that Might Guy's actual voice actor? Holy shit, I think it is. I always love when they do that. They credit him as Dick Splitter, so if it's not his actual voice actor, that would make no sense to credit him as that. They do have to do this though when they get the original voice actors, because with the exception of Rooster Teeth owned ones, actors aren't allowed to voice for things like this. Same happened with Sigma and Bleach. Yes, his name's Bleach now. In my opinion, the best of this was when they got Sigma's voice actor Chris nope, who was credited as Supreme Overlord of Ice and linked to a page for hamsters, obviously referencing his most important role as Gundam Tanaka. Because otherwise a reference to Gundam Tanaka in a video about Ultron and Sigma would make no sense at all. Anyway, what was I saying before I was sidetracked by how awesome that is? Alright, the frame rate. I was really hoping my phone was lagging. So I went to watch it on my computer, and then on my television, and all 3 times there was this noticeable strangeness to the frame rate. Am I the only one bothered by this? It's like times there's a really distracting jankiness and a very bad frame rate dip that happens a lot, that really weakened the impact and speed. And that's a consistent problem throughout this battle, and it really disheartens me, because the choreography is fantastic. You can really feel the love for these characters and the way this is animated. Namely, the way it expresses their differences in stats and personality. All Might's body is way stronger than base Might Guy, especially when using Prime All Might. However, even at his base, Might Guy is way faster and significantly more skilled. Let's not forget that All Might's training from Gran Torino pretty much just amounted to him getting his shit beat in. It's not like All Might is a seriously skilled martial artist, while Might Guy is. And the animation for the big moments is usually stellar. The Detroit Smash just looks fantastic. Really, all the Smashes do. It kind of sucks that I'm distracted by how choppy the frame rate is. Because I would love if one of those people who make 60 FPS versions of shows and fights were to do something like that to this fight. Because I believe it would look fucking stellar if they did. I do know that sometimes when this sort of shit happens, like with Genlock and the Machinima Transformers series, that the stupid ass excuse is that it's trying to look more like anime. But then why would it drop its frame rate? I know that 2D anime is usually animated much slower than Western animation, but take a look at Garo or Land of the Lustrous and tell me they look less like anime than these. Personally, I don't know why they chose to do it. Maybe it was due to time constraints or something, I don't know. Once again though, the choreography is astounding, and not just what they do, but some of the angles they get really sell the impact and speed, even with the frame rate. You can really tell it was Torian and his team that animated this fight, because it looked so good. Honestly, I would love to be able to just overlook these flaws, but I can't get over how badly United States of Smash and Night Guy were. And by that, I don't mean the animation itself, because the wind-up for Night Guy is amazing, and the impact of United States of Smash looked awesome. However, I don't like how the United States of Smash doesn't have any anticipation, although that's not the real problem. The problem is that when he punches Might, that's it. While in the actual series, the impact doesn't come from the punch on its own, but when the punch hits the ground and sandwiches all for one between a rock and a harder rock. Everyone's like, it's just a big punch, but really it's a punch that slams the opponent into the ground so they absorb all of the impact. I don't expect them to do the Cyclone, but I at least expected All Might to slam Might Guy into the ground. This looks worse than Jump Force's iteration. Although I guess that's unfair, because for all the flack Jump Force gets, look-wise, it's pretty spectacular. But this death battle looks more on par with the One's Justice version. Okay, it looks better than the One's Justice version, but it certainly doesn't look that good. The impact looks nice, and the explosion is cool, but they didn't sell the impact because the punch happens in mid-air, and doesn't even knock Might Guy back. It makes Might Guy, the one with the hole in his chest, look really strong, because he didn't even flinch when hit, even though he had a fist through him. Also, All Might is flying. But the Night Guy is what disappoints me, not because the build-up isn't cool as the series that it comes from, because, let's be honest, I don't think anyone expected them to capture that, and it still looks really cool and taken on its own merits. Here's how the impact is sold in Naruto Storm 4. Here's what it is in the actual show. Now here's Death Battle. Now, it's not all bad. The run-up, while obviously not as cool, is excusable because it still looks fast, and given how close the two are compared to Guy and Madara, it'd be silly for him to go full pelt, because he'd reach All Might in like no time. And I love this shot here, harkening to the Madara fight as well. But the impact is just a very light kick and a dragon slamming down with like nothing. The United States' smash looked like it had more power. Obviously, I don't expect it to look this full on, but I at least expect the move to look like the move it's supposed to be. I don't recall any version of Night Guy being a kick followed by a dragon, maybe in one game or the manga. But to me, I've always seen Night Guy looking like the kick and the dragon hit at the same time, and the selling of the impact is not from the kick, but the follow-through as Might slams Madara for miles and ends in a big explosion. This is just a light kick, a dragon bear hug, and a tiny pop. Disappointing. There should have been a big boom, not just that. Maybe just like a wide shot showing the raw power as it blows up and wipes out the forest. I don't know. Anybody who would just watch this animation and avoid could be confused by this, because that looked like it had less impact than literally all of All Might's smashes. It makes Guy look really weak, and Toshinori not only doesn't have a death cry, but his body is also in the same condition as it was before the attack. To an outside viewer, it looks like a draw, and to a Naruto fan, it actually looks like Might lost because he's going to die from the 8th gate, while All Might looks none worse for wear. Really disappointed by that. Regardless, do I think this battle is good? Hell yeah. There's way too much entertainment value for me to complain. And at least, unlike Weiss vs. Mitsuru, which also had a really disappointing finish, the build-up to this one was awesome, and at least they actually showed a corpse. But as a finale, take the disappointing finish statement as a metaphor, and you know my stance. Now I want to just address the characters they showed off for Season 7. They better all be in it, or I'll be disappointed further. We have Miles Morales, and no, I'm not going to guess who they're fighting, but given the last 2 Spider-Man fights, I wouldn't be surprised they do something really stupid by putting Miles against the successor to Batman or whatever. There's Beerus, who I fucking love, so they better not fuck it up. What I think is Krona from Soul Eater, maybe? I think that's right. If it is, then that's cool. I really love the first half of Soul Eater. The second half wasn't nearly as good, but I enjoyed it till the ending. Krona was never one of my favorite characters. That was pretty much Death the Kid from the start, but I do like Krona, and I hope they get justice. Apparently this is Sindel. I haven't been paying attention to the new Mortal Kombat 11 stuff, so my dumbass thought this was Cetrion, but apparently it's Sindel, a character the NetherRealm has treated very interestingly, but I don't care. Danny Phantom, I think, is the one that'll get a surprisingly large amount of fanfare. Given how shocked some people were about the fanfare over Ben 10's inclusion before the fight came out, I think we'll see a lot of fans coming out of the woodworks to celebrate their Ghosty Boy. And then what I think might be Obi-Wan from the 2000s 2D Clone Wars, which is a very unfair combatant to use, because if he gets the high ground, then I don't know who could stop him. Maybe Batman with prep time could stop him, or Superman with infinite sunlight. Anyway guys, that was my way too long retrospective on Death Battle Season 6. What I liked, what I didn't. Overall, I'll say the season was fairly decent. It had some good episodes and some bad episodes. It is one of the weaker seasons, but every show has its down points eventually. Not to say Death Battle Season 4 was any better though. Honestly, I hope Season 7 manages to deliver in some badass fights.
And also Galactus versus fucking Unicron.